Hello. So we are just getting on for our live that starts at 7 p.m. And tonight is Taking the Leap. So welcome and give us a minute or two to get set up here. And I'm waiting for my tonight's guest. So welcome. I hope you're having a great Thursday and wherever you are. And hang tight. Hello. First person on there, E. Friedman. Welcome. I'm just waiting for my guest tonight before we get started. So hang tight and we'll be started in just a minute or two. Hello and welcome, and I'm waiting for tonight's guest, who's Dina on Taking the Leap. So yeah, we're excited to have you here. Thank you. I'm excited about this conversation as well. So hang tight. Hey, Judy, thanks for coming tonight. I'm just waiting on my guest tonight. And we will get started in a minute. Hello, Alyssa. Thanks for popping on this morning. It was great to see you. Thanks for being here and supporting us tonight. I'm really excited to have this conversation with Dina. And she should be jumping on in a minute. I'm just waiting on her. And then we'll get rolling in our conversation. So, Alyssa, you ready for the snow tomorrow? We both live in Boston and we're expecting yet another foot of snow tomorrow, and it's not my favorite. So, yeah, I wish winter was over, but we'll get there soon enough. So we are just waiting on Dina, and then we will get rolling. And I think she's on now. So Dina, if you can just... Hey, Susan, welcome. I'm just going to have Dina jump on here. Welcome, welcome. I know I was out in the sun yesterday too, and it was great. Hi, Dina.
Hi, sorry, I'm a little late. I'm still a little technically challenged here.
No worries, no worries. It's okay. It gave me a chance to say hi to some folks that came on. So thank you for being here. So everyone, hello. It's Thursday and welcome to Taking the Leap. And I'm super excited to have Dina Aronson here tonight. So if you haven't been on Taking the Leap is all about conversations with women who've gone out, they've created their dream business, and they've really created their dream life. And they've done it when they were in their midlife, so 40 or older. So I'm excited to have Dina, and I actually met Dina through Susan, who's on here tonight. So Susan, thank you for introducing us. And Susan is the executive director of a nonprofit that ironically, Dina and I are actually working on a project for. And it's Uncommon Threads. And if you have a chance, check out Uncommon Threads on Instagram and Uncommon Threads Boutique and Shop to Give, because it's an amazing nonprofit. And we both really have a spot in our hearts for it and really believe in supporting it. So thank you. And thanks for being here tonight. So welcome. You are in my favorite city, in a nice warm place. And right before you got on, I was saying how we're going to get a foot of snow in Boston tonight. So I'm thinking of those Miami vibes and that sunshine and warmth, and wishing I was there with you.
Yes,
Frankly.
well, I wish you were here with me too. I don't think I can live through another winter in the Northeast, but we'll see. This became a permanency of a COVID experiment, at least for several months out of the year. And we'll see how it goes, but I'm not missing getting ready for a snowstorm.
I'm
So
telling you, I would be all over it. I'm like, I'm definitely ready at this point
yes,
to be out of the cold weather and the snow and the ice. But we're almost there. It's, you know, the end of
you are.
February. We're going into March, and I'm thrilled to be at the end of winter. So, and I'm also really thrilled to have you here tonight
Well,
because
I am thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for
oh
having
my
me.
God, my pleasure. And I think your story is really impactful, and I'm hoping that everybody, you know, thinks the same when we're done having the conversation. But we're going to start with, so what have you been doing? I mean, you know, where did you come from before you ended up in Miami?
Oh my goodness. Well, I started in Miami, really. I was born and
That's
raised in
true.
Miami, and I took a different path. I was the only one in my family to actually leave, but I went to school here in Florida. I got my law degree, and I was married to somebody at the time who was from New Jersey and didn't like being here. And so, you know, we graduated. I practiced law for a few years. I really did not love being a lawyer. I knew pretty early on that it wasn't going to be for me.
Hmm.
So I'll just take you back through a little history.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I started out as a family lawyer, which I was really excited about because I love the idea that they were like faces and people attached and that I could have some impact. But you know, I was really young at the time and had a really hard time separating out like the emotional part from like my life. And you're dealing with people at the sort of bottom and
Hmm.
lowest parts of their lives. And I was absorbing all of that negative energy. And that was really, really hard for me. And so, much to my mother's chagrin, and I'm sure she's here, I said, I do not want to do this anymore. My ex wanted to go to New Jersey. I said, sure, but I'm not taking another bar exam and I'm going to just try and figure this out.
Hmm.
And apropos to this conversation, I learned how difficult career change was at a very early age because here I was with my law degree thinking, oh, I'll figure this out. And over I heard, why would you want to waste your law degree? Why would you want to do this? So I gave myself a little time and I said, if I don't find something, I'll go back and try this again. But
Hmm.
ultimately, I went into recruiting, legal recruiting. So I stayed on the periphery of the law and dealing with lawyers. I can't seem
That's
to get
okay.
away
It
from
was
them.
just a
Yeah,
little bit of a diversion, but you
a little
know,
bit of a
close
diversion.
enough.
And I did that. So, you know, that's what people know as the headhunting. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I went to a client that was a law firm where I did all their in-house professional development and training and recruiting. And I was there about 7 years. I met my husband there, so it was a really wonderful experience for me, and I enjoyed it. But about 7 years into that, I decided to take an entrepreneurial leap, and I started my own legal recruiting firm.
Uh-huh.
And I started that in 2006. And so, and it was good. There's so much about it that's really was great. I mean, connecting people, you know, helping people chart their career course, cultivating relationships. I loved all of that. But like 10 years into it, I started to get very itchy and I was getting close to 50 and I just couldn't see myself doing it for another 20 years. I knew I needed to do something. And so I started to think, and fortunately I'm a very supportive husband. And so
Hmm.
he said, you know, you got to follow your dream and figure out what it is that the dream is. So
Right.
you know, I started to think about writing. I've always loved to write. I've always had, I think, a creative trying to get out. As a total aside, I have a little jewelry design business with my mom, who is uber talented,
You
and
had those entrepreneurial sort of
I had those, you know,
tendencies.
exactly. But I didn't want to focus on the jewelry either. So, you know, at the same time, here I am approaching 50. Things are changing in our lives. I mean, up until this point, like pretty much all of our decision and choices revolved around family. I had two stepsons, and you know, they were out. My youngest was about to graduate college, and you know, we were going to move from our suburban home to New York City, and I thought this is the right time. So I'd
Hmm.
always been a lover of blogs. I love all things style, fashion, wellness, you know, beauty, everything that comes up under that lifestyle
Hmm.
umbrella. But what I found was like none of those blogs were speaking to me or women in my demographic. And so I just, you know, there were so many changes that were happening, like just, you know, day-to-day shifts in my routine and priorities, hormonal shifts, you know,
Hmm.
menopause, perimenopause. And so I just thought that, it would be really nice to have something and some place to go to get these questions answered, to explore, how this looks at, for the sort
Hmm.
of 45 plus set. And I guess I just kind of decided to create what I couldn't find.
Right, right.
So
Well, isn't
born out
that
of,
sort of the entrepreneur? It's usually you're trying to solve a problem that, that is affecting you or your
right.
family or somebody really close. And you're saying, oh, you know what? There's this opportunity, right? You see this opportunity and then you're going to find a solution. So you already had those kind of entrepreneurial tendencies. Were you a journaler? Like, did you like to write? Did you write every night or every day or?
I love to write. I will admit I was not much of a journaler. Again, my mother on this call, my mother used to tell me, don't write anything down you don't want anyone to see. So I think I don't know, Mom, did something happen in your past? So I wasn't really a journaler, I've always loved to write and just sort of write creatively. And, it's just something that I was drawn to, much more to words. I'll back up because when I
But you
decided
couldn't
to go
do
to,
that as a lawyer. I mean, that was
well, I
kind of,
mean,
it was black
well,
and white. It wasn't sort of
yeah,
like you couldn't be too creative.
yeah, it wasn't the most creative writing, I love to write. I love to read. That's always sort of, sort of drawn me in. And so
Hmm.
I just kind of thought, I can do this. I had no idea what I was doing. And as you wrote in your, little bio, it's still very much ongoing and unfolding. But that's one of the messages I have for women in this demographic is, we've lived and we have a lot of experience and we have a lot of transferable skills. And so you can look at something and say, I don't know how to do this, or you can say, you know what, I can figure it out, and I'm still figuring it out.
Right.
But I do think like we need to harness all of this life and wisdom, and for so many of us, our priorities are shifting, and we do find that when I was sort of getting ready to do this, I was talking to a friend who said, and it stuck with me. She said, we spend those first years in that first half doing what we have to do, and now we get to do what we want to do. And
Right.
I just love that. And that's kind of
But what's
where I am.
interesting is you had an idea of something that you loved. Some people don't actually have that. They don't, they might know what they like but they don't necessarily have something that's in the back of their mind that they want to
Right,
actually, or that they could put into practice. So
right,
in some ways, one of the keys to your transition is that you did have something that was kind of like gnawing at you that you
yeah,
wanted to put to use, that you wanted to, try something out. So
yeah,
that was a great start. Not everybody has that start. So they
yeah,
have to kind of go through the process of trying to figure out what is
right,
that,
right.
piece
And
that they want to do.
I did have some of that too, but I just kept coming back to this and to this subject matter that was just so intriguing to me, because there's so many of us out here. I think I talked to you earlier. There's 50 million plus 50 plus women in this
Wow.
country. That's a lot of people.
It's a huge demographic.
It's a huge demographic, and
Right.
there's a lot to talk about. And from a business perspective, there's a lot of spending power there. So there's a lot of opportunity,
So to monetize that is definitely in the cards at some point, maybe.
yeah, yeah. Right now I really am still very focused on really building a community. And, I have lots of thoughts and ideas for where I want to go, but it's, I think when you're getting started, look, I was like, is anyone going to read this? Is anyone going to care? But at some point I just thought, if I'm never going to know if I don't try. And
Right.
it's been a very
Well,
interesting few years
let's go
because
back because I
yeah,
think we didn't really tell people exactly sort of where you are, because so some of the keys to your transition, it sounds like, was age, you becoming an empty nester, you were moving again, so you
yeah,
were sort of leaving one thing, and you'd been doing something for a long time that you would sort of had enough of, or at
right.
least you wanted to add to whatever it was so that your focus wasn't 100% on that. Is that sort of
Yeah,
are those some of the issues or things that inspired you to make the transition? Or
absolutely. I think those are very much the things that inspired me to make the transition, for
so then
sure.
you started writing, and your blog is called.
My blog is called Patina, and I let that idea, I didn't jump right into it, so I should say, like, I still wasn't ready to take the full plunge, but I started to do things like, it's one thing to have an idea in your head, but you got to get it out. And so even though I wasn't starting the blog day one, after I sort of had these revelations, I
Mm-hmm.
did start to take steps. And I thought the name was really important. And I know a lot of people ask me about it, but like for me, it made so much sense. I wanted to evoke this feeling of time worn beauty and of the character that happens
Mm-hmm.
with age and how things become more beautiful, as they weather. And so
And that's
I came up,
Patina.
and that's Patina. And so I started with the name, I secured a domain. I started doing research. I set 1,000 Google alerts and just, and started to research the demographic to sort of see, what I was getting into and sort of trying to figure out what else was in the space. Started talking to a lot of women in this,
I
in
was
the
going to say,
same
did you
age
do
range.
some research and sort of put a
Yeah.
plan together, or you kind of did
Yeah.
your own market research in your
Really,
network?
really my own market research. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to tell you I was so brilliantly planned out, but no,
Nah.
no, I was still working. There was still life, and was just sort of trying to put it together and let it marinate, and so that when I was ready, I would be ready. It took me like 3 years, A, to get it together, but B, also I think to get up the nerve to do it, because it's scary. It's putting
Right.
yourself out. It's being vulnerable. I tend to be a pretty private person, and
And was there
so
one moment that just like you said, I'm putting my pen on that piece of paper, or I mean, or not even a pen to paper anymore, but my fingers on the keys, or
yeah, I think it was maybe a confluence of factors, but we'd moved into New York City. And so like literally my day to day was very different. And it just felt right. It felt like the right time. I'd been sitting on it a long time. I'd been talking about it. And I started to think, I'm talking about this. Someone else is going to do this. And
and
so,
was it COVID? It was during COVID, right?
well, my
Or,
unfortunate timing was I launched literally the month before COVID. So, but that's okay. I mean, and that kind of took the steam out of my sails a little bit, just
mm-hmm.
because it was just such an uncertain time. And I was trying to be uplifting, and there were days I just, didn't feel that way. And I wasn't sure that talking about like, hair and makeup and things like, not that that's
Uh-huh.
all we're talking about, but I just wasn't sure that, I didn't really know how to navigate that. So I kind of just went slowly. I got out of the gate a little slower than I had wanted, but I've refocused myself, a year in, and I feel like we're building a really, really wonderful community. And, a lot of
And
them
so
are
what is
here.
the sort of the main I mean, I know you do sort of lifestyle and beauty and a bunch of different things, but is there something that really, is a major focus for it? I mean, I know that you talked a little bit about how you're not only hitting the woman that's 50 and above, but you're trying to also look at it for someone who's going to become 50 and
Right,
how
right.
that feels for them.
Yeah. And so, in terms of the question, that there's really not a main focus. It's really all about this life, this time of life. But you're right. More recently, I've been thinking about how to bring younger women into the fold. And I've been thinking about it for a while. And then this horrible story a few weeks ago of this young woman she was named Miss America. She took her own life. And she was this stunning, intelligent, she was a lawyer, woman who had written an essay for Allure magazine. And it was all about age and the pressure she was feeling. And she started it by, saying, I'm going to be turning 30 in the next however many months. And every time I say that out loud, I cringe. And it just got me, and she talked about how she didn't feel this way, but that she felt in society's eyes,
Mm-hmm.
she was running out of time. And it was like a light bulb. I said, I have to figure out how to reach younger people, because it is scary, the thought of getting older. I mean, it's scary. You don't know how things are going to change.
Right.
But they do. And if you're, home raising kids, that doesn't last forever. If you're somebody who is, it's just, there's a lot of
So
changes.
helping
And
to
so
ease people into that
it,
next stage is kind
it
of one of the
right.
goals, right?
So that has been sort of how this thing has been evolving for me, is I really want to speak to younger women, and I want to show them that we are engaged, we are relevant, we are
Right.
active,
You don't go away. You're
you
like,
don't go away. And
right.
one of the things I did on my blog a while back, and I probably will start to reshare some of them, as I had this series on women who had really hit their stride, started new things, made it happen in midlife. And I did this whole series of different women who, for instance, the Barefoot Contessa, Ina Garden, she didn't write her first book until she was 50 years old. Julia Child was in that category, a lot of chefs.
And that's what this is about. I mean, that's truly what Taking the Leap series is about.
Yes.
Are women who, at age 40 or 50, are actually just going for it. And,
Just going for it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think I'll start to reshare some of those, because there were some really inspirational stories there. And I just want younger women our age, like, to know, like, you can reinvent yourself. This is, I just look at this as the next chapter. And I think we're dealing still with some very outdated notions about aging. And I do think that narrative is changing. And I do think we're starting to talk about it differently, but I still think that, there's a lot of age bias out there. And I really want to be a part of that conversation. And I want to help to keep pushing that narrative along and keep helping shift it. Because I mean, I have friends who are in their 80s and they're phenomenal. I mean, there's no stopping them.
Right. And you would never know also that they're in their 80s, frankly.
No. So yeah, I mean, I think it's not only about the 50 plus set, but it's about demystifying the, aging for younger women too. I want them to go through it knowing there's more to look forward to. It's not an end. It's a beginning. It's just a new beginning. It's a new chapter.
So are you happy doing this? Like, do you feel that this is it what you envisioned and more? Or, I mean, yes, you're in the middle of it. You're not, there's, it's the beginning, the middle, who knows? But at the end of the day, is it fulfilling, and is it making you happy, and is it what you thought it would be?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love this idea of building something. And as I've said, it's still very much a work in progress, but one of the things that has been I set out to build a community, but I didn't realize what I would find, and I will say, like, you and I met here on Instagram. Right. I mean, I never anticipated that this would be such a catalyst for new relationships and for sharing and for, inspiration. I mean, I'm inspired every day by women that I've met here and that I see here. And I mean, that has been such a real gift and an unexpected one. And so that's been a really lovely part of this.
One question I get all the time is, how do you find how do you find your community? Is it through just the writing of not just the writing of the blog, but are you combining it with other efforts to help you find those people that are really, believe in you?
For sure. I mean, it's, it started with the writing, and then I went on Instagram as a supplement, essentially, for the blog. But, it's hard to drive traffic to a blog. So I became more and more involved. Instagram was kind of a more instantaneous way to reach people. And there's all kinds of ways, as I'm sure I started researching hashtags and finding women that were posting under those hashtags and just reaching out to women. And I'll say this to people out there listening is people are really nice. Like, if you DM somebody, you're very likely to hear back.
Right.
And, there are a lot of women who are very willing to share their experiences and to support you. And, it's become a really, I think, lovely, I'll call it like an ecosystem. And I really do love it. And I'm really excited for what's to come. I mean, I have lots of ideas brewing. The blog is great, but I don't think we begin and end with the blog. I will keep that blog going. I want it to be a resource, and I want it to hopefully inspire and uplift. But it's
also the foundation of kind of of who you are and where you're going with all of it.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. But I'd like to take it further, and I've met some really incredible women here, and there's some planning.
I was going to say, so what does that look like?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, I would at some point think a podcast might be in order. I really would love to get to a point, and I think we're getting there now in the pandemic, but I'd love to get to a point where we can start to put groups of women together.
Absolutely.
in person, connecting and sharing. And like, I kind of envision it growing out that way. And I'd love to see that happen. And
I
there's
think a
some,
retreat would be great, actually.
maybe here in Miami.
Yeah, in Miami, I think we could put together a really great retreat, Dina.
I would love it. I would love it.
It's
Well,
on my radar for sure.
I know who to call to help me with that.
I think it would be great. So if
Yeah.
there were things that, well, I'm sure along the way, look, we've all run into obstacles and things that we wish we would have known. If someone could have given you two or three pieces of, advice or things to watch out for or things to think about as you move forward, what would they be? And what would you share with someone today?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I think the things that I wish I had known were more almost technical in nature. Like, I wasn't super tech savvy, as you can see. I got here late because I'm still
It's
not all
all
that
good.
tech savvy. But so things like how SEO works and how to, do an Instagram story, which I've become quite proficient at. But those kinds of things. And also, I think maybe more philosophically is there were times along the way as I was trying to get this put together where I think I let my mind take over. And like, I think mindset is really important. And I think that for anybody who's thinking about making a change, you've got to stop like having negative messages go. I mean, it happens, but let them in and
So
let them
how
out.
did you overcome it? Like,
You know what?
how did
I'll
you
tell you.
overcome the mindset blocks?
I think a lot of yoga and meditation and just like I really sometimes I think you have to retrain your mind. And I read a lot and I tried to read about other women who like that's the series I put together. I was trying to
Right.
see like people are actually doing this at 50 plus years old. So, it was a combination of learning about other people and learning their stories, really trying to sort of focus on concentration, meditation. I think meditation is amazing. I'm not great at it, but the yoga for me is a very helpful practice.
And you
And
do it every day?
not anymore. COVID kind of threw that schedule off, but I do it weekly, and I'm trying to get back into a routine now that we're here.
Uh-huh.
But I think mindset is, and I've written about it a lot on the blog and on Instagram. I just think mindset is everything, and it's like you don't, if you think you can't do it, then you're right, you can't. There's only one way to find out, and it's scary because you have to, you might fail, but you know
Right,
what?
right.
I think the
But you
other thing
learn,
that
and they
you
say your
learn.
energy goes where your focus goes where your energy
Where
flows, or
yeah,
however it
yeah,
goes back.
where the head goes, the
Exactly,
energy
where the
flows.
head goes, where
I
the
had
energy
yeah.
flows. And so,
I had a yoga teacher who actually the concept was the energy was prana, and she used to say that all the time. Where the head
right,
goes, the energy flows. And
exactly.
so when you start to repeat these mantras, like they make sense, and it just does make sense. Like where you're putting your energy is what you're putting out.
Right.
But I will say this too, and I say this to myself a lot, and I say this to friends, and I think this gets easier to answer as you get older. What is the worst thing that could happen? Right? Like, so I start this thing and nobody reads it. Okay, I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. I'm still have a
I could
great
write
life.
another one tomorrow. Maybe
Exactly.
somebody will read it.
Exactly. So I think that's kind of as people tee up and start to think about doing different things, I think that's something that you should ask yourself. And I think
Right.
if the answer is generally not going to be anything too life alteringly horrible. So
And also, I don't think it's lowering the bar. I think if you can say, like, I remember saying, and I said it to a friend the other day, they were launching a company. I said, just sell one to someone you don't know. And I know when I started one of my companies, I started a company called Barrels of Fun. And I said, I want to sell one barrel in the first week to someone, or first day to someone I don't know. And if I do that, then 6 months of all this work and God knows hundreds of thousands of dollars are all great. It
yeah,
was just
yeah,
that one. And it wasn't that I was like lowering my, expectations. It
right,
was just it was what I really wanted to do. And it's kind of, if you go into it, say, okay, yes, I want it to be great, and yes, I want it to succeed, but you got to start somewhere, and it's okay
exactly.
if it goes slow. And it's also the concept about taking a leap and change. Some
Hmm.
people are going to take really baby steps.
Right,
Other people are going to take a little bit bigger, and other people are just going to go diving head first. But
right,
it doesn't mean that you're going to get there faster or better, or you kind of have to follow your process, and you have to do it in your way, and you have to do it at your pace,
Yeah,
because that's the only way you will achieve, what your dream and your vision is. So
exactly. And I think you hit on it. It's very personal. And so, success means different things to different people. And
exactly.
and I think that's the other thing is when you're getting started out, you just kind of have to try and tune out the noise and focus, because if you start to look and compare yourself to others, you're never going to get to where you need to be. Like, you need to really, in some aspects, I think, need to have a little bit of tunnel vision and put your head down and do the
For
work.
sure.
And if you have, you figure things out when you have sort of a mission and purpose alignment. You just figure it out, because it's the thing that makes you want to sort of get out of bed in the morning and
That
go at
bigger
it again.
why that says, oh my God, I really want to help women. I really want to change their
Yes.
lives. And in some ways, our bigger why is aligned, right? We're just
Yes.
taking different paths and different routes to do that. But
Right.
the bigger mission of helping women in this age to sort of achieve and to feel good about what they're doing and to feel good about themselves is part of that bigger why.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And that's really, for me, the crux of it is, like, even if I can just help one woman, if I get
Exactly.
a DM tomorrow, and I've gotten DMs that have just made my whole day, like,
Right.
people I didn't even know from the past, who I didn't know were following. And, just send me these lovely notes, about something I've written, or, something I was wearing that they wanted to go out and buy,
Right.
or, whatever it is. It's so gratifying. And I just think, you know, I, I have this quote that is always in the back of my mind. And when my mother-in-law died, I wrote an in memoriam for her. And my mother-in-law was a co-founder of the Alzheimer's Association. She did
Oh, wow.
amazing things in her life. And this quote I found was, it went, and I might not be getting it fully right, but the great use of a life is to do something that outlasts it. And it gnaws at me every day. And I'm like, am I doing
Well,
enough?
I mean, there is this legacy,
Yeah,
piece
yeah,
that if what would somebody say, about you in your eulogy or at your funeral,
right.
and what would you want them to say? Oh, you hope that something that you do, outlasts your life,
Yeah, yeah, yep.
or at
And
least some people do. I mean,
yeah,
not
well, that's true.
everybody,
That's true.
but
But I really I want to have an impact, whatever that means. And that doesn't mean you have to, like, change the world, but you find your little piece of it and you do
right.
what you can do. And
I
that's
love
what
that
this
you
is
said
about.
that you're an impactor.
Oh,
When I asked
I
you
just,
what's your title, you said to me, midlife blogger and impactor. And I was like,
yeah.
wow, I love that. I think that's a great title.
Well, thank you. I mean, I just look, nothing against influencers. I know lovely influencers. People call me an influencer, and it's fine. But for me, like, I want to make an impact, and I like the connotation a little bit more.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
so, yeah.
And
So
again, nothing against influencers,
no,
because,
no, no, no,
you know,
absolutely not.
some of my
Absolutely
best
not.
friends are, and I think
Me
it's
too.
great. And I'd be thrilled to be that. But, at the end of the day, I do love the title of impactor. I think it's a
Yeah.
great way to look at how it shows how you view the world.
Yeah. Well, I hope I can do just a little bit. I'm humbled. I'm so, like, I feel so grateful to be able to do this. That, there were years when I couldn't do it. I needed to make a paycheck, and I just feel so grateful to be able to have the luxury of trying to build this thing out. And I'm going to keep at it, because it is very gratifying. I love to learn. I'm still learning every day.
Yes.
And, if I can be a resource and help, a woman to feel empowered, then I have done my job.
So
So,
if women want to find you, or if anyone wants to find you, where do we send them?
so you can find me here on, the handle is at Patina_life.
Hmm.
And then the blog is patinablog.com.
Great.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on the replay. So we're gonna actually post this now,
terrific.
on Instagram. It'll be on my grid, and then I'll ultimately upload it. We'll be putting it onto a YouTube channel, as well
Great.
as onto my website, and hopefully you'll post it also
I
wherever
will.
you'd like for people, to share with people. So
I would
Dina,
love
it's
to.
been so amazing to have you here tonight.
Yeah, this has been so much fun.
I know that it's going to be a lifetime friendship here. I'm
I
very
know it.
excited to work on things with you. I think it's great, and I look forward to meeting you in person and being in
Me
Miami for
too.
sure.
Me too. I and thank you so much again for the opportunity, and thank you to Susan, the Midlife
Yay,
Fashionista,
Susan,
for
thank you. We love
introducing
you.
us. We love you, and this has really been so wonderful. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to get you to Miami.
I can't wait to be there. Thank you, everyone, for being
Thank
here
you.
tonight. Thanks for taking the time. I have two more next week and two the week after, and we're just going to continue on the pace of two a week of meeting some amazing women who are doing great things in this world, have fantastic stories, and who I hope you'll all have the opportunity to meet. So thanks for being here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank
Thank you, everyone.
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.